Hey, Jed, it's great to have you back on Milk Street. I hope you're rested because we're going to take a lot of calls.
Chris, it's always an honor, man. I'm putting my Milk Street hat on right now, and I'm ready to do this with you. I'm ready to channel my Chris Kimball, and let's take some calls.
Welcome to Milk Street. Who's calling?
Hi, this is Bridget. I've been trying to replicate a sandwich that my son particularly likes, a kind of sandwich. It's like the kind of sandwich you get like at a deli or a quick service place, hot sandwich, usually with steak or chicken and cheese. And it's all kind of soft and melty together. It's not a panini, it's not crisp, it's not a grilled cheese. Kind of thing that kind of comes wrapped in paper and foil. And the whole thing seems like it's been steamed.
Well, do an open face sandwich. Turn the broiler on. Maybe you put the sandwich 6 to 8 inches below the broiler, just long enough to heat up the filling and melt any cheese. And then maybe the top part of the sandwich you put on the lower rack. Maybe you spray it with some water, to keep it nice and moist. And then on the top rack, you melt the cheese and really heat up the filling, and then just put the two halves together, or just use the broiler to melt the cheese and then assemble the sandwich, maybe spray it with some water, wrap it in foil, and just turn the oven off and put it in the lower rack for a few minutes. Or just get takeout. I don't know. Jet, any ideas here?
Before I was a chef, I was a boat cook, cooked on fishing boats for a long time. This is kind of one of my favorite kinds of sandwiches. Here's my kind of crack at it. You can tell me if it pressure tests with you, but it sounds like you don't care about crispy and dry. You really want kind of the melty, like a gooiness, how it all comes together. That's what it sounds like to me. Foil on bread is basically just putting the bread in. You're not getting enough steam in it. So in my opinion, try two things. One, you could try to wrap the sandwich in either wax or deli paper, then foil, because you're actually creating kind of this double steam pocket. So as the bread starts to sweat, the wax paper pushes the moisture back, versus if the bread sweats, it hits foil, the foil will actually kind of evaporate it. And another thing, if you really want gooey melty, I actually do plastic wrap and then foil. And as long as
plastic wrap?
Yeah, no, I know, Chris, I know. But, in these commercial kitchens, when we cook for like 300 to 400 to 500 people, on a sheet pan, we'll do a layer plastic and then a layer of foil over. And then as long as the oven is not more than 150, 200 degrees, it'll work. Again, I am not a scientist and tell you what the long-term effects are, but I think those are going to get you to ooey, gooey, and melty together.
The long-term effects of everything is death, but that's just a question of timing. But
there you
go. That's a walk on the wild side. I like that though. That's a good idea.
It kind of replicates, when we're kids, and that sandwich that our family, our parents sent us with, over the course of all day in the hot sun in that lunchbox, it all melts together anyway.
Yeah, Jet, that was so delicious sounding. I love that.
It's my favorite kind of sandwich, actually. American cheese in a lunchbox for 7 hours is my favorite.
Bridget, I hope that's helpful.
It is. I will definitely try it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you so much. Thanks. But between me and you, we've got East Coast and West Coast covered. We are the perfect duo.
That's absolutely true. If you want sort of a antisocial, stuck-up, annoying person, I've got that completely covered here on the East Coast. Okay, let's take another call.
Welcome to Milk Street. Who's calling?
Hi, this is Carly from Rochester, New York.
Hey, Carly, Jet and Chris here. How can we help you today?
So we have a family favorite meal. It's really simple, but really yummy roast chicken. Pretty basic recipe. A bed of veggies, carrots, onions, potatoes, a whole garlic clove. If it's winter, I'll put some other root vegetables in. So we all love the chicken, but really the kind of star of the show is always the vegetables. They get really caramelized and lemony and chickeny, a little burn on the sides, and that's kind of our favorite part. And what I want to do is cook those vegetables for other meals, but without having to roast a whole chicken.
one or two really quick ones, and then let's let the real pro jump in here. In my opinion, I think, like you said, chicken broth is fine, but you're missing the most precious thing on a bird is the fat, right? So I know if you can get chicken skin or kind of the cheaper cuts like legs, thighs, maybe brown those first. Use a little bit of oil, obviously, and then that oil helps to kind of render more fat from the bird. Pan roast your vegetables after you brown that chicken to get some of that chicken fat. And then I think with all your seasonings, your lemon and your herbs, etc., you could put that all into a sheet pan and then kind of roast it off that way. My second inclination is kind of like, using like my grandmother's Chinese stir fry hack of something called chicken powder. There's an Asian chicken powder, which is not European bouillon. Making sure to saute in a good amount of olive oil or some fat to account for that big chicken flavor. You could either saute those all the way through or start them, brown them, and then finish them in the oven. Those are kind of some of the things that come to mind for me. I'm going to ask Chris, what do you think, brother?
Yeah, I just heard about chicken powder last week. I was interviewing someone, and I'm going like, that's brilliant. Chicken bouillon cubes. Bouillon cubes are all over the place. Many cultures use them, constantly. So you could take a few cubes and crush those up like a chicken powder and mix that in with some butter or oil and then put that over your veggies. But I think just throwing wings on top is, maybe the easiest thing to do. It wouldn't cost very much.
So the chicken powder, can you buy that anywhere? Is that like a mail order?
Asian grocery store, no problem. And then you can mail order that. But I would specifically look for Chinese chicken powder. And the crazy thing that just popped into my head is duck fat is something you can find pretty readily available. Like sauteing anything in duck fat, especially these hearty vegetables with some garlic and lemon just sounds incredible.
That's a great idea.
Don't you think? I think you might get that chickeny kind of poultry fat flavor.
That's the best idea. Yeah, that'd be terrific. Yeah.
Thanks so much. I'm going to try them and see what works best.
Thanks for calling. Yeah, chicken powder, man. I got to go get some chicken powder. Welcome to Milk Street. Who's calling?
My name is Eric, calling from Chicago.
How can we help you?
My partner and I, we have birthdays that are very close to each other, and we typically celebrate them around the same time. So this year, we thought that since we're having milestone birthdays, I already know one thing for sure is that sooner, for breakfast, we're going to have breakfast sandwiches. I love breakfast sandwiches. I always have. I was looking for something, an idea of something a little different than the typical bread, eggs, cheese between the toast kind of thing.
Well, first of all, since I'm on the older end of milestone birthdays, so what is the milestone? Let's start with that. How serious is this?
We're both turning 60.
Oh, God, you're young. Bunch of kids. Great. For me, if I was going to do sandwiches, I wouldn't do an American-style sandwich. I wouldn't do an Egg McMuffin. I would definitely look to the tortas in Mexico, that sort of thing, because those make our sandwiches look like, third place as far as I'm concerned. If you could get, great, Mexican bolillo or whatever bread, that would be terrific. Jet?
Right.
Hey, what's happening? I 100% agree with Chris. First of all, staying in the realm of Latin, I like using chorizo, but Mexican chorizo. I think when you cook down the chorizo, you get so much of that flavored fat. And then when you crack a ton of eggs into that, you get kind of chorizo eggs. And then I'm a large format bread guy for party, like a group sandwich. So I like ciabatta, kind of a big flat sheeted ciabatta, because it has all those air bubbles that trap all that cheesy deliciousness to it. And I would also kind of think about it from, if you're a breakfast guy, what's your favorite egg and protein combination? And I think you could easily turn that into an amazing sandwich.
I mean, if you wanted to do you could do I think, Jet, that you had this idea too, but you take a half sheet pan, right, and do like a frittata in it. So you have a whole sheet pan of egg essentially, and then you can divide that up as you like. But I think that's a good concept of a half baking pan is sort of the starting point.
My wife Allie makes a really simple breakfast tart. So puff pastry, rolled out, blind baked a little bit, so you have a little frame. And then once it's half par baked, she cracks a ton of eggs, some cooked bacon, and some cheese, and you've got like a Gruyere bacon and egg situation. But because you can sheet it out, it eats like a sandwich. I know it's not a sandwich, but the puff pastry reminds you of sandwich.
No, that sounds great.
That sounds
really
great.
different. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking my call, and I hope you guys have a great day.
And happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Welcome to Milk Street. Who's calling?
Hi, this is Angela from Madison, Wisconsin.
Hey, Angela. Chris and Jet here. How can we help you?
Hey, so I've got a question about olive oil in things like pesto and aioli and emulsified salad dressings and stuff like that. I love them. I love them all. And I try to make them from scratch when I can. The classic advice is to add the olive oil in a slow stream with the motor running, and the food processor. But when I do that, I end up with a really bitter final product. I'm talking unbearable. I'm wondering about info or workaround you might have.
This is when I trot out a bunch of pseudoscience, confuse the caller, and pretend I answered the question properly. This is my area of expertise. Well, here's what's happening. The food processor is going to beat it up, and the lecithin in the egg is going to bind fat on one end and water on the other. According to the scientists, some of the bitter components of olive oil end up in the water phase, the water side of this, and they're more available, so you get that bitter taste. So I have two suggestions. One is use a neutral oil like grapeseed oil or something at the beginning when you're making that emulsion in the food processor, and finish, just whisk in at the end some fresh olive oil, fruity olive oil, so you get that nice olive oil taste without beating up the olive oil. Use a mortar and pestle for doing a pesto, or use a whisk for mayonnaise. I think that'll get around the problem. I hope that sounded professional, but
I'm sold.
It sounded good.
I am sold. Another thing, especially when using eggs, I think the whole separating of eggs, egg yolks, and then trying to get that emulsion started. If you're not making them all the time, some are in restaurants, try using boiled eggs. In competition, if you've watched me on, compete, and a lot of the chefs at what we do on television, if you're trying to make something in 20 minutes, start with boiled eggs. Add oil, your fat to the boiled eggs, because the boiled eggs are actually more stable, and when you break them up into little pieces, they actually will grab onto the fat faster. And then if you keep working that, they will get smooth, believe it or not. And it's like a sauce gribiche. If you're making enough volume, that food processor might not be the ticket. I think the blender is the ticket, because you're really condensing all those products into a smaller cone, and you probably can get a lot more work done, and the blade's going to spin faster. But Chris is absolutely right about oils. It doesn't always have to be olive oil. I think play with neutral oils. You'll pick up the flavor of pestos and other ingredients better as well. Hope those help.
Yes, that's absolutely great. You both have made my dinner table infinitely more interesting and a tastier place to be. So I really thank you both for your time today and just in general.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. That's really nice of you. Thank you. See, Jet, your life is not completely wasted. See, I mean, I think my life may be completely wasted, but at least there's a reason, right?
Oh, please. The volumes of things I've learned from you, Chris. I mean, we could do this all day, bro. Are you kidding? I mean, it's this is amazing. Pinch me moments. I'm on with you doing answering questions. I feel slightly humbled sometimes. Why am I on here with Kimball? I just don't get it. But as long as I can add something to the conversation, I'm happy.
Well, your cooking chops are probably better, and your personality's definitely better. So, I mean, you definitely got me. I'm not a chef. You're a chef. So.
Thanks for calling Milk Street. Who's calling?
Hi, this is Jean from Lexington, Massachusetts. I have a question about poaching or cooking proteins in hot water. And I'm wondering if there's a hard and fast rule of when to add ingredients in water. To give you some background, I've been making the Hainanese chicken rice, or, the Thai common guy. And intuitively, I would bring the water to boil first before adding the chicken. But I've seen like recipes that instruct me to like add the chicken in cold water, and some other recipe also tell you to boil the water first. So just wondering what difference does it make, and the same goes for soft-boiled eggs.
Got it. Jean, may I be so bold to presume you are like me, Thai Chinese?
Yes.
Yeah, so คนไทยหรือเปล่าครับหรือคน
Thai
จีน
ค่ะ
ครับ
Well, I'm Chinese, but I grew up in Thailand.
Oh, there you go. Chris, sorry, man. This is an inside convo. But
Hey,
again,
guys, just go for it. What can I tell you?
I'm going to tackle the Hainan chicken rice one because I am Hainanese Thai.
Oh,
So,
wow. Yep.
Yeah, my grandmother taught me the same thing as you. And again, there's no hard and fast rule. So I think we'll break it down by chicken and then eggs. And I think Chris can help us, with both. But for most poaching, especially Hainanese chicken rice, it's definitely a cold water start because, like poaching, you want to bring those proteins up very slowly, right? There are certain temperatures in eggs, in chicken breast versus chicken thigh, or both, where you're going to get to the point where it's going to get too tough. And again, if you really spike that chicken into that boiling water, you're just going to kind of shock it, and all of those protein strands and muscles are just going to want to tense up. So I personally like to do a cold start. I don't, if you're not using a thermometer, my grandma was always telling us just a slow amount of bubbles, right? And you can kind of temp it by the amount of boil, simmer to boil. For Hainan chicken rice. And then for eggs, as you know, I've done it both ways. I've cold started, I've hot started, but it really depends on kind of what I'm going for. If I'm going for a soft boiled egg, I'm definitely staying within a lower range. But again, I know chefs that can drop it in boiling water and go by minutes as well. So I'm also going to turn this over to Chris.
Well, I totally agree about chicken, like white cooked chicken. So I think cold water is gentler and slowly cooks things so they don't get overcooked. It also gives time for the inside of the, let's say, breast to come up to temperature, right? So if you use really boiling water, the outside's going to overcook by the time the inside gets up to temp. I think it's a gentler process. It's slower, so the inside and the outside of whatever you're cooking is going to be cooked more evenly than if you used hot water. It's like using a low oven versus a high oven, right? So I agree with both of you.
And also, I'm going to jump in also on the sous vide situation. I'm not a sous vide master nor fan. I don't think it's one of those things that is great for everything. In fact, I think it's kind of weird for certain proteins. But Hainan chicken rice, if you bag like a leg quarter or a chicken breast, you put a little bit of the fat and seasoning. In my grandma's case, it was MSG, a little bit of salt, maybe a tiny bit of green onion. And you actually just set that sous vide for like 175, 185. You can let it go for a while, because chicken is tricky because you want it high enough so the fats from the skin can kind of also, it's not really rendering because it's in a moist environment, but it gets sticky. And I think really good Hainan chicken rice should have the stickiness from the fat. So again, we can go all day about this, but and then some people do like to boil eggs. Once the water's fully rolling, boil, you gently set the eggs in and they go 4, 6, 8 minutes. So I think you tried either way, but cold start gives you the most control of just about anything, I think.
We're all at 3 votes for cold start, right?
That's right. We love cold start.
Cold start wins.
Kap kun kap. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for calling. Welcome to Milk Street. Who's calling?
Hello, my name is Janet Brackett. I'm calling because I've been struggling with a halibut recipe. I had this beautiful piece of fish when I was in Stockholm, and I have tried every which way to replicate it. I can't seem to be able to do it. I just can't get that crisp and the moistness inside. It comes out dry.
So you want a crisp skin and you want a moist interior. Well,
correct.
Okay, I was in Japan a few weeks ago, and they do this with salmon, which I think you could apply to halibut, shiozake, which means they salt the fillets, center cut fillets, usually 12 hours ahead of time or more, and skin on right? And you salt them well. Make sure the salt's in the skin and the fish. Put it on paper towels or wrap it in paper towels. Put it in a container of some kind, and let it sit overnight, and then cook it. And then the skin is super crisp, and you don't get that fishy smell when you cook it. And the texture is really dense and also moist. It's really good. You could broil it, finish it in a broiler, and just make sure you don't overcook it, or you could do it on the grill. I cook salmon and halibut all the time.
Yeah, I think Chris nailed it. So I think a lot of things that we fight with as cooks is, a lot of the fish is, yes, it is absolutely fresh, but it has been previously quick frozen. So they process the fish on the boats, and it gets very, very cold very, very fast. So when it actually thaws, it's very fresh. But the problem is there's a lot of moisture. And moisture is the enemy of browning. And moisture is the enemy of crispiness. So a few things, like Chris said, just like cooking a really great steak, a dry-aged steak, you can actually leave it out in the fridge salted, so overnight. They're actually dry aging fish now. I'm not telling you to do that, but taking the concept of removing as much internal and external moisture as possible, and then giving it a good dab, really almost like paper towel encased. Give it a good press out. Pans are also a big deal in my opinion. I think if you're going for a pan on the stove, it's cast iron, it's preheated, and I like to cook fish personally close up to the sides as much as possible, because you're kind of getting heat from two sides, and all those tips of pre-salting, letting the evaporation process happen in the fridge, maybe for a day or two, and then seasoning with dry seasoning, getting a pan really hot, getting a nice high temperature oil, those should help. And then, cornstarch, people think it's cornstarch, but it's not. Cornstarch reacts to moisture in meat and creates goop, right? You want something no, don't use that. You want something drier. So flour's the way to go here. Take a little bit of, a legume that you can pulse into a powder to create some kind of armor, to also help you. There's a lot of ways to play that, but I think we've given you a few decent tips to kind of get that crispiness, that kind of suppleness on a piece of fish. I hope these were helpful.
I think Eric Repair at Le Bernardin, New York, I think he uses Wonder Flour. First of all, if you want to cook fish, he'd probably be the best guy in the world to talk to. But a little Wonder Flour on the outside might also help.
Okay. This is very helpful. I hadn't done any of the above. So thank you so much.
Yeah, pleasure.
You
Thanks
bet.
for calling.
Fish is tricky for a lot of people, Chris. I do think that, for most cooks who don't cook or catch fish, I mean, it's definitely one of the holy grail proteins that I think a lot of people are scared of.
Well, I got to say, I almost fell over when one of the chefs in Japan told me that it's dead fish. And they just cook that salmon. It was in in Japan, they don't really have ovens. They have a stovetop, but then they have a broiler, right under the stovetop. Yeah. And so it was in there 10 or 15 minutes. And I said, isn't it time to take it out? He said, I don't know. I don't worry about it. Like he broiled that thing for like 25 minutes, Yeah. It was like, that's how but for breakfast, that's just how they like it. So I don't
fatty fish, either like mackerel, bonita, or salmon all day long. Man, now I'm hungry. All right. Welcome to Milk Street. Who's calling?
This is Michelle. My question is about fried chicken. I cannot make fried chicken. Yeah.
What are the problems? What are you going for, and what's actually happening?
I use equal part of flour and equal part of cornstarch, and it's still not crispy. I don't know where I'm going wrong, what I'm doing wrong, but it's not good.
Now, in my opinion, the world of fried chicken kind of falls into two worlds, like the dredge kind of crisp on the skin, or like in Asia we do a lot of like wet batter, believe it or not, almost like a thick tempura style. On the dry side, it sounds like you might be doing like a drier dredge. Soaking in a ton of buttermilk it for salted buttermilk, maybe a little hot sauce to almost brine the bird, really kind of get the flavor in there. And then that buttermilk clings on to the skin, and then dredging it one time in flour. And I don't love, a little bit of cornstarch is fine here, but I don't know how much you need. But seasoned flour, maybe one more layer, a quick bath in buttermilk, and then back into the flour. So you really are picking up and building a nice little crust. And you know what? I think it's because you're cooking whole pieces of bird, 375 to start, because once you drop that chicken, you're going to lose some oil temp, and hopefully you'll live at 350, 360. And you're really cooking to golden brown all the way through what we call GBD. And then once you're 165 inside internal temp of the actual protein, I salt it right away, and I like to hold it in a slow oven just to continue to hopefully dry out that crust. Those are some of the ways that I play. But Chris, help us out, man.
I mostly agree. I think the technique I use is I do a slurry. I'll take the seasoned flour. Mm-hmm. You could use a little cornstarch if you wanted, but salt, pepper, spices, etc., and then add some buttermilk to it and make essentially a slurry, right? A batter. And then reserve some of that flour mixture. So have a pie pan with the slurry, the batter, dip the chicken in with tongs, let it drip, and then put it into the flour mixture, the dry mixture next to it. Now what happens is the dry flour and that batter causes a really craggy surface, like these clumps, which get really crispy when you fry it. And the second thing is, in terms of temperature, when you put the chicken in the oil, and don't use canola oil, whatever you do, please, peanut oil or grapeseed oil, the temperatures are going to drop, as Jet said. But I like frying about 315, 320, a little lower, because chicken, especially the bigger pieces, take time to fry. So you don't want to overcook the outside. So I would probably maintain around a 320 when you're frying. But I think it's the batter into the flour mixture that gets you that really craggy, thick coating, and that there's more coating there to really crisp up instead of a thin coating. So that's how you get that real crunch on the outside.
Yeah, Michelle, I also want you to think about, sorry to interrupt you, but mechanics too. Maybe I would also kind of double check, are you crowding your oil? Right. Are you dropping the temperature too much so you're not getting all that browning power out of the fat? So that's another thing in my mind. I'm thinking you might be doing everything right, except maybe your temperatures when cooking. But I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
I have been using canola oil. I think, I'm not sure if this is the problem.
Well, canola oil smells like fish to me. I'm sorry. It has a really unpleasant odor. Peanut oil has a higher smoke point, but I don't think the canola oil is going to be a problem. What kind of Dutch oven or pot are you using? Cast iron or are you using what?
I am using an electric deep fryer.
Well, I could, first of all, I would use cast iron or enamel cast iron. And two, make sure it's at least 6 quarts. I don't know how big your electric fryer is, but you need a lot of oil to get hot, so you have a heat sink. That is, when the chicken goes in, the oil's not going to drop to 260 or 270. So you need a lot of oil to fry chicken because you don't want the temperature to drop precipitously. So how much oil does that deep fryer hold?
It's about 5 cups.
Oh, 5 cups? Oh, well, that's okay. Jet and I should have asked that question 5 minutes ago. That's the problem. Yeah, you throw that thing out and, use it for small things like little pieces of chicken. But fried chicken on the bone, you definitely want at least a couple of quarts of oil there.
I hope all this helps, but I think we found the problem.
Take care. Don't you love these calls, Jet, where you and I talk, and then like 5 minutes in, the key piece of data shows up. It's like,
we went all around the world there in fried chicken and didn't start with the obvious question.
Always ask them a couple of questions to start. Right.
Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
Just the facts. Yeah, just the facts.